Today, we're having a conversation about mental health. I'm really excited to welcome Jasmine Griffin into this conversation with us tonight. Jasmine is a master social worker, a trained therapist, a behavioral health professional, and a U.S. Air Force veteran with over a decade of experience supporting individuals and communities through mental health, trauma, and healing. Her work deeply rooted in cultural responsive care and meeting people where they are. We're grateful to have her here to help us guide this important conversation in mental health in our community. And also working with MACHE as our mental health coach. Thank you, Jasmine, for joining this live. My name is Angie. I am the co-founder of MACHE Community. And
My name is Louis Denis, and I'm the founder of MACHE. We feel that mental health is important within our community, especially the community that we're trying to build with MACHE in Haiti. And so, touching on the topic of mental health is a key role to rebuilding Haiti and our communities, as well as ourselves as individuals. So, we're happy to have Jasmine join us and diving deeper into mental health, what it looks like, and how we can find some solutions or healing um, in that area. Thank you, Jasmine, for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me. Again, very grateful to be a part of the team and, serving, with the community and so forth. So I'm glad to be here.
awesome. I want to hear first, how did you come about with joining MACHE? I know that there's a lot of different spaces right now that we're promoting MACHE, and we find that the people who join our community, especially wanting to be a part of making the change, are usually very like-minded people. And it almost feels like everyone who's joining is, kind of have the same ideas that we have, but it seems like they're all aligned with, our mission, and you also want to do the same thing. So, yeah, how did you find MACHE, and how did you, connect with us?
Yes, I believe I initially found Mache through Instagram. I think that I saw a video with you, Angie, in it, describing this woman who, was in the US and moved back to Haiti. And it was just very fascinating to me. I think personally, I already had, my personal ideals as it pertains to, not thinking I really wanted to settle here in the US, and so especially seeing you, and being that passionate to be able to come back, and go back to Haiti, especially during a time when many, don't necessarily, are kind of apprehensive about that. They have their reservations. It was just very inspiring. Additionally, I think in general, I like to kind of keep up with what's going on in Haiti and so forth. And so oftentimes I'll like follow, some nonprofits that, are of interest to me. And so I think through looking at your page, I ended up just finding Mache. And for a while, I just was following the page, for some time, just kind of trying to get some updates because I just remember reading the bio and just, thinking that it was definitely a good, mission and thing to work towards. So, yeah.
Awesome. We're very happy to have you. So thank you for reaching out and, getting to this point with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So, mental health, psychology, how would you define that?
Mental health and psychology. I think overall, just the study of, human behavior, the way the mind works, why we do the things that we do, why we respond emotionally to things, even behaviorally, just kind of all those things that go together.
Nice.
Yeah. I'd like to hear a little bit of your story and how you got to be in this space of your work.
Yes. I think, growing up, I always kind of had like a curious mindset. Once I was in high school, I started to like read a lot more books, just kind of questioning things a little bit more, not just going by what things were told to me and, what I was taught growing up. And so, I started getting into a lot of reading about like spiritual stuff you know, um, and psychology as well, why we do things the way we do. I think initially I had a big interest in anthropology, which is more so specifically about like human behavior. But I think it kind of transitioned into psychology and more so like the mind, again, why we do things the way we do and so forth. And so, yeah, I kind of always had that interest. My pops was in the military, and so I always knew I wanted to go to school for psychology eventually. But I went in straight out of high school, and oftentimes in the military they don't necessarily you don't necessarily get to choose your job oftentimes. But for me, I was given a list. I could kind of put what like rank which ones I wanted, and so most of the jobs that I put on there were like medical jobs, but the first one that I put was mental health technician, which is what my job title was at the time. And so lo and behold, that's what I ended up getting my first pick. And so there were certain things I had to go through to be able to get there. Like they have to go through psychological testing myself and so forth. Before that process, but that's how I got into it. And, I think just through the military, working with everybody, it just further honed in my interest, which made me want to further my studies and, go to school for it. And so, yeah, that's how I kind of got into mental health.
So you did in the army or the military, you did play a role in mental health even there.
Yes, I was in the Air Force, and I was a mental health technician. That was my initial duty title, and then eventually I was a certified alcohol drug counselor. So I also did, substance use counseling for the service members. But actually, I'd say a lot of what I do currently with my master's level is similar to what I did when I was in the military. The military kind of like they put you in there, like they put you out there in the field after you're done with your training. And so I got a lot of experience, more than I would say someone who maybe was just going to school for psychology outside. And so I think it was perfect that I was able to both go to school and be able to get that, direct one-on-one experience, with individuals as well at the same time.
Nice. How would you align, people who are serving to people,
Civilians.
outside the civilians, people outside in the communities?
Yeah, that is a very good question. When it comes to I think ideally, a lot of people would say that the military population is quote unquote healthier than you would say civilian population. But I think individuals in the military have their own set of issues, as well. Um, but I think that, as far as mental health is concerned, it goes hand in hand. The same percentage of individuals that, struggle with mental health, outside, struggle, while inside. Even so, many people struggle even more due to maybe certain experiences that they may have had while they were in. Um, but yeah, I think that they're not all that different, of course, aside from them going through like the screenings and stuff like that, some of those things that we would obviously know someone wouldn't be able to join for. But as far as, culture wise and so forth, it was very diverse. Um, you know, of course, heavily populated with men, right? But overall, I would say that it's not that different when it comes to mental health and maybe the views that individuals have towards it.
Yeah, I want to say, like, as a father, um, I think I didn't really understand the importance of mental health until I had children, and just seeing their upbringing, how they respond to things, and also seeing myself in them, right, in certain aspects. And so, I now I try to watch and be careful with like my responses, how I handle them, how I speak to them, And so I think my question is within children, how can, you know, how can mental health be impacted?
Yes, I think for one, um, and when you say mental health impacted, do you mean impacted by their parents or just mental health for children
Environment,
in general?
parents, environments, upbringing.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, I think that, it really does start with our children. Um, you know, why we are the way we are is based off of, what was modeled while we were growing up, based off of, the parents around us, siblings, that we grew up around, even our friends, educators, teachers, daycare. workers, and that's why I, always show my appreciation towards teachers and daycare workers, because they're around our children, oftentimes longer than we are, especially people who do work full-time jobs. So everything is really modeled at home. It really does start there. And so, for one, um, as parents in general, if your mental health is not all the way there, that definitely can have, effect on your children, to an extent, because, you're the ones caring for them. But again, the way you respond to things, your patience, how patient you are with them, those definitely affect them, because, you have to instill that, you have to instill that strong mindset into your children. And so, if they're insecure and they're constantly anxious, that can lead to, further issues down the line.
For sure. I want to add as well, as you, as a Haitian American, right? How was your upbringing with your Haitian parents? Or is that something
Um,
you talk about?
yes, I would say I was more so brought up in the household with my mom. Um, you know, I would say that mental health, I feel like for the most part, I did feel comfortable with speaking about mental health with my mom. And I think that it was because of, some of the effects of that she experienced, from her mom growing up, and some of the stories that she was able to tell me, about mental health. And, for instance, even affection, right? Like, her telling me that she didn't really hear "I love you," growing up, which is very common for a lot of individuals in the Haitian household. So I think my mom growing up was very expressive about that. I think even now as an adult, I can see now how even that's affected my mom, even now as an adult. Um, and so I think, because my mom was so expressive with, you know, me and my sisters about how it affected her in the household, for the most part, I did feel comfortable, but there are times, where I feel where you can tell, the effects that her upbringing had on her, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. You want to add something?
I mean,
Is that something you can relate
you made
on?
me think about, my upbringing with
Yeah.
my mom and how um, her life, as a child affected how we were raised, me and my siblings. And yeah, it's so I had a conversation with her recently, and I was talking about one of my siblings' trauma. And, she said, that's not a thing in Haiti. That's really an American thing. And I'm like, the crazy thing is my mom, she went to school for psychology and everything. So she knows, she understands. But I think a lot of the older Haitian community do think that way, in a way that trauma is not a real thing, because I feel like a lot of the children in the Haitian homes, they do suffer from a lot of trauma from, and the parents too, they suffered from different trauma from their
And they
upbringing.
just pass it down.
They pass it down, and some things are normalized. A lot of the children don't feel comfortable to speak up and say, how they're feeling. It does seem that it does seem like it's becoming a new trend for children to be more outspoken. I think our generation is able to handle that better, for us to allow our children to speak up and say how they're feeling. And I think we're more likely to apologize and adjust than our parents were.
Is
Um,
is that a
Yes.
is that a good thing? Because I hear people say like we are a weaker generation, and so
mm.
that's why like we do those things, you know. So how would you respond to that?
I would say yes and no. I think that of course, I think that it is good that children do feel better about speaking up about it. I think a lot of that does have to do with social media to an extent, being able to push out certain messages to more people, um, and so forth. But yeah, I think, a lot of people would say that they say that children are like the most oppressed, population, because of the fact that they are children. Some people just undermine, their thoughts and their opinions because they're quote unquote just children. And so, yeah, I do feel like there's two ends of the line there. And I think that at times it is a good thing. I think it's more good than bad. I always think it's better to be able to express. But I think there are some times where it's not necessarily that good. And, I think a big part of mental health in general is being able to teach children, um, you know, that they can both, be emotional, but teaching them how to be emotional, teaching them how to hold boundaries, teaching them how to be assertive, teaching them how to go after their goals. And so I think that's, what mental health is about in general. And, some people, may take it too far and take that as, um, maybe making things too easy for children. But I don't think that's necessarily the case all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of components to the mental health or psychology industry because you hear a lot about trauma, mental health and healing, quote unquote. So how can you distinguish what is real or what is, pretend or what is, trying to fit in? Um, you know, because I think we would all define those things in our own different ways.
Right.
So
Yeah. And when you say that, do you mean when somebody, are you saying in the ways people react to quote unquote trauma they say they've experienced?
correct.
Yeah, I think a lot of that goes, you have to ask the person like a lot of questions. I think me personally, um, digging deeper, asking the whys, figuring out, the background, um, thinking about whether or not their behaviors are lining up with like the values and the things that they say they are. I think, the actions and so forth, that will always be able to tell you that. But I think overall, overall, um, you can't necessarily invalidate an experience that someone has said they've
Right.
had. But I think that regardless, there does come a time where you can't allow those things that you've experienced to have you continue, engaging in negative behaviors or affecting the individuals around you, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I think I could like for me, right, when I first started hearing about like mental health and I was I started kind of reflecting within myself and seeing, okay, how am I affected? Right. But then I think to some degree, maybe I kind of looked too deep within and started, making things that maybe wasn't a reality to the other person involved.
Right.
But again, it's your story, it's your experience. So, I guess no one else can define that for you, you know.
I can see that with some of my siblings when we talk about our upbringing. Some of us remember things as
Mm,
traumatic that the others didn't. Like
Mm-hmm.
conversations where one person is like, "Oh, this happened to me," I'm really, I feel affected by this, and we're like, we don't remember this happening, or it didn't happen this way, or it didn't seem that this thing was affecting in this way. So I think even when multiple people can be raised in one
mm,
household, even if everyone is having a different experience, even if the parents are treating everyone in the same way, how we're receiving things also matters. And
Right.
yeah, that was an awakening for me when I realized, wow, we were all raised in the same house, but we did not have the same upbringing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you, um, what are the common signs that someone will show to show that they're struggling emotionally or mentally?
Yes. There are many ways. I think um, first, for anyone, it's easier to be able to know the signs when you actually know the person, when it's someone that you've been around longer, because it's easier to be able to tell whether or not like this is their normal behavior. Do they normally not speak as much? But some common things are like isolating, not wanting to be around as much, being very short, talking very short. For some people, it can be like, if they've been having sleep issues. Um, Sometimes you can even tell in their mannerisms, looking like they're always in a rush somewhere. You can tell in their body sometimes, seeming like, they can't find the answers to something. They're constantly thinking about something else, or like their mind isn't there. They're not always present. It can be things like knowing that you've told someone something and they've forgotten about it. Maybe they're burnt out, overloaded with something, and their mind is just not all the way there. They may be moving in autopilot mode. And so, yeah, I think there are multiple ways. And I think the biggest one is really getting to know the people around you, so you can see, differences in their behavior, and whether or not, some of those changes are normal.
I wonder, so with you doing this work for a while now and um, meeting a lot of people that, you've had to help through the mental health space, does that impact you? Does that impact your mental
Mm,
health? Does the therapist really need a therapist?
Yes, I have a therapist. I have a therapist that I see sometimes. Yeah, I think that it's definitely important. I think that everyone could benefit from therapy. People always think like, if I go to therapy, oh, something's wrong with me. But there are so many things that, therapy can show you about yourself that you maybe, were unaware of, and so forth. But yeah, I think personally, there are days where it can be draining. I currently work in a partial hospitalization program. And so the individuals there come straight from inpatient. And so they're moving, coming from this, such a high risk, population area and coming to us. And so, they're not all the way maybe medically medication managed and stuff like that. And so we're seeing them, we're kind of the stage where we're like normalizing some of those things. And so, there are times where I feel like I don't necessarily want to talk a lot because I've done a lot of talking during the day. um, I think that sometimes it can feel a little bit more exhausting with individuals who, aren't necessarily motivated to be there. There are some individuals that I work with that, give me a boost of energy, sometimes. And I think, there are other times, I think every, therapist, clinician has, certain individuals where they kind of have to, brace themselves or, just make sure, they're all the way there because they know that, it's going to be a little bit more, of an emotional exchange with them and so forth. So, but I think managing my self care, being able to turn work off when work is off, I'm very, very big about that. I don't respond to things before, the time of work starting. I'm not one of those. I maintain my boundaries for sure. And I think that because I have been doing mental health so long, I've learned, ways to be able to maintain my boundaries and, try to make it to where it doesn't, you know, um, have a negative effect on me mentally.
for sure. So I was born in Haiti, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I came to the States when I was 4 years old. And I went straight to kindergarten, and I didn't speak English at all. It was a new environment for me. Different cultures, different people. And so in your experience, I'm not sure if you have any experience dealing with like immigrants or foreigners. How would you say, leaving or changing certain conditions, environmental conditions, can affect them mentally?
Um, can affect individuals or like different cultures, depending on maybe where you are.
Both. Yeah.
Okay. Um, do you mind asking it one more time? I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking.
The culture shock, the
Yeah, the
the
culture
change
shock, the
coming from one
change, and
environment to another, like how does that impact that individual?
right.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes, it definitely does impact in various ways. Like, for one, not being in an environment that you're used to. I think with anybody, it takes, adjusting, simple things like simple things you wouldn't even think about, like water. I remember going to Germany, like having to say still water, for regular water that we would say like water. And so it can definitely be like a big change in general, trying to get used to a new culture, that you don't know of, especially a new language at that as well. A big part of communication and mental health. Um, and so yeah, I think it, affects individuals differently. I know during my time in Korea, it was different, especially around the areas where there weren't Americans or, people that looked like me. It was definitely a shock. Like individuals would literally take out their phones and take pictures of me. I remember sitting down at tables wanting to eat food and like seeing people have their children like sneak their cell phone and take pictures of me, and it's because we look different. We don't look the same. And so I think just in different ways, going into a new culture can have its different effects, on your mental health, in various aspects. But I think for a lot of people, it can create some form of anxiety, leaving from this one place that so much and going to a new place. And so, yeah.
Go ahead.
You know what I'm thinking about now, where
Yeah.
a lot of people are going to have to experience a reverse culture shock. Because the people who left, Haiti for a long time, and, not just Haiti, there's a lot of, we know what's happening with immigration. A lot of people are being sent back to where they came from originally, and they haven't been in those places for a long time and forgot what it's like to live in those places. So remembering the language, remembering how to operate there, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think now they've released a statement about TPS and a lot of Haitians having to go back, I think starting this month. What do you think that impact is going to be like for someone who is going to experience that reverse culture shock? Because now you're experiencing it as an adult and less likely to have, because when we came here as kids, for those of us who, came from Haiti as children, we had a support system. We had our parents. We had things for us. And now we're having to go back as adults, and possibly a lot of people might not have the support or might not, know people there. So in a way, I think that can be even more traumatizing. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think that those individuals who are faced with the possibility of having to go back are more than likely already experiencing like some of that anxiety surrounding it. Being afraid maybe to go in certain areas, ICE being, in different locations and populations and areas and so forth. But it definitely can have, and I think would have a big effect on anyone, that has to go here from the States to Haiti, in multiple areas, whether that be, access to resources, like you mentioned, having support. Some individuals don't necessarily still have family there. Maybe family they have there, they're not that close to. And so, yeah, I think that safety, feeling safe is a big part of mental health. And, many people going over there won't necessarily feel that safety because it, even though they may have been born there, it's an area that they're not necessarily used to anymore. And so, yeah, I think that, regardless of how positive anybody can be about the situation, I think it, would have an effect on anyone.
For sure.
There we go.
For sure.
Do we want to acknowledge some comments for a sec?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay, so we have some comments. Just want to look at what everyone is saying. Military, Jasmine, ukon combat, akon mwen goumen nan pitit. And she said, good evening, y'all. Good evening. Our culture need that speaking up within the family sector with respect. Yet again, the truth kids have to be natured yet firm. Yeah, we talked about that. Okay, Sterling, want to know how to get in this conversation? Or do you mean you want to get on the live? We know it's you, Sterling.
He would need the link.
Do I know combat? I didn't do any combat. I supported the ones doing it.
Do you want to share the link?
Anything mental health, come ask me.
Okay. We'll send you a link, Sterling. Okay, the next comment says I don't even know if I want to read this if I want to read this out loud. Hold on.
It's always us Haitians on the news crying and begging. We, the Haitian people, should be ashamed of ourselves. Go ahead. Mansalo.
Okay, no, okay. So this is one thing being on social media, I think I'm very careful about what I respond to, because if you have questions, you have comments, and you can do that respectfully, we will respectfully answer your questions. But when it's in a way of attacking, that only shows yourself and who you are. So if you're coming at us a certain way, you're cursing, and the approach is very negative, you're not going to get a response. So I'm not going to acknowledge that comment.
Respect.
Our culture need that speaking up within the family sector with respect. Yet again, the truth kids have to be nurtured yet firm. Exactly. Yeah. Nurtured yet firm.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take some questions in the comments. Sterling, if you have any specific questions, can you ask in the comments? We want to keep this focused around, Jasmine answering questions for people who have something to say respectfully. Nope. Okay, but we'll continue while you guys come up with questions.
We're talking about like the reverse of, the culture shock in reverse, and us moving back to Haiti, which is what draws a lot of people to MACHE, right? And so I think that's an important topic for us to discuss and kind of touch on for a second, because what I've experienced with, my people is that there's this sort of colonial mentality, right? Where they are more comfortable, even if they have the means to leave and transition, they don't want to let this go. This American dream, this version of success, they don't want to let that go, And so, it could show up as colorism. It can show up as, what else? A judgment and hatred towards your own, your country, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I think this is why we see a lot of these comments and concerns when it comes to, going back to Haiti. I understand what the media is portraying, right? But the media also portrays this about Africa and other, Black and brown countries all over the world. And so why is it that we choose to believe these narratives rather than finding out on our own and traveling and exploring like everyone else does?
Yeah. It really does come down to, the fact that that's just what we're used to, that's what has been ingrained, since, they've grown up, right? Individuals in Haiti, this idea going to America, this American dream, buying a house there, so forth. And so, I think for one, times are a lot different now than it was years ago, right? When individuals were first moving to America. And so I think people still stick with that mindset because if it's what they were taught, even if it's not actually working, right? Even if they may be in this amount of debt, and so I think that's really what it does come down to. It's kind of easy just staying comfortable. It's comfortable. Moving and doing something different requires you to be uncomfortable, requires you to do something different. And so, many people just aren't there. Not only that, some people don't necessarily think that far ahead either, right? That's just what they were told, is the, dream, what they were told that's what success looks like. And, some individuals feel like they got there. And so they don't necessarily have that, motivation to go back.
Yeah. Someone said, please don't. Why are you reading that? I wanted to give the person the benefit of the doubt, to see if, maybe I'm misreading the first part, but like I said, I removed them because, everything that we're doing is to try to better the community. We want positivity. We're trying to, impact the mindset of, we know that the mindset is how everything's going to change first. Everything starts with the mind. So there's going to be a lot of people who don't want the changes. I think a lot of people talk about changes, but are not actually putting in any effort
Right.
into it. And a lot of times the people who do want to put in the effort, sometimes get attacked. But this is a boundary that I set for myself very early on coming into social media, because it's a space that took me a lot of personal mental work to get comfortable putting myself out there. So I had to set some boundaries, like I will not respond to certain, comments. I will not respond to certain behaviors. And I don't care if I have to cut half of my following down. I would rather block half of the people if, I feel like that is not the crowd that is responding positively to me, because I believe that the work that we're doing is positive. But
Right.
I forget that happens. Like I forget that people
trolls.
talk in so like I'm just reading like
Do you really say that?
yeah why people move like that?
You know
You
what?
know?
I did a live with Blondine on TikTok, and that live I was like, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that. I'm so used to my YouTube audience being so positive, and because I'm just really sharing my experience in Haiti and things like that.
I'm used to my environment, like in real life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So when you put yourself out there, you realize the people who has the trauma who then come back and attack you. And yeah, but anyway,
Exactly.
I see, like, we've been seeing for I think a couple years now a trend of healing. This is something that I don't think we really seen before, at least not in like our younger times or in the previous generation. We're seeing a lot of people more focused around healing. Everybody want to have this thing, they say, I'm healed, I'm healed. I don't believe that. If you
Right.
tell me you're healed and that's it, I don't believe you, first of all, because healing is it's something you do continuously as things continue, as things come up. But how do you feel about this new healing community? I think in a lot of ways there's a positive side, which means that there is a desire to have to be in a better mental state. And I also see that for the younger generation, for our generation now, a lot of people are staying single longer because they're refusing to mess their peace. Like everyone is prioritizing their peace at this point. What do you think
Right.
shift in the generation now versus the previous generations that is making this a priority for us?
Well, one, like I mentioned, I think it is, the decreased stigma that people have, in regard to mental health, feeling okay to, speak out about it and so forth. I think it also is the times that we're in. It's hard times, individuals are struggling right now, um, right? Like things are expensive, individuals aren't even able to go out as much as they were able to beforehand. And so I think that, that's also part of that like big shift, and being able to find like the beauty in like the small things, but as far as the, spiritual and the healing part, is concerned, I overall think like it's definitely a good thing. I'm always for anything that is for improvement or just, improving that, mental health. I think sometimes, talking about healing, right? Like some individuals, like there's a fine line. Some individuals may get into the mindset where they're, consistently focused on healing, that they're not necessarily like actually focused on the present, if that makes sense. And so it's like, I think it's important for people to be able to decipher the two, and being able to like know the difference. But yeah, overall, I think it is a good thing. But I think, yeah, the main push is, like I mentioned, the times that we're in currently. Um, I think there's been a big increase in social media as well, which has had a negative, impact on individuals' mental health. A lot of studies showing that people are a lot more into their phones, throughout the day, not having as much human connection. We used to have a lot more human connection, than we do now. We're not as connected as we used to be. And, connection is a big part of, mental health and, feeling good about yourself, our overall well-being, whether that be, having conversations with the people we love, like setting aside that time to, talk to your friends, or even just giving yourself, 15 minutes to just be with yourself, see what's happening around you, feel what's happening around you. Um, and so, yeah, I think that's where that came from, and the big push for healing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Um, I was thinking about something. So let me try to get my thought back. So I'm trying to listen to you at the same time because I'm like, oh yes, that's true. And then I want to comment on something. So it's okay. First, let me go to these comments. Um, Lawash said, sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Can you guys please give some info as far as the MACHE and mental health, how exactly it would help us Haitians living here? How would MACHE contribute to us immigrants living here in the States? Give me some more details, please, to what other resources in the community of MACHE provides. Okay, so this is actually, the purpose of this live as well is to introduce Jasmine to talk about the different things that Mache is doing to help not only rebuilding Haiti, but also how, the importance of mental health within our community. And Mache is offering these services. Jasmine is offering her services through the Mache community platform as a mental health coach. So she's someone that you can book one on one, as well as we have February 18th, a workshop that she's hosting for free. So you can join that once you join the community, where you can get tools on how to manage unhealthy thoughts. And, there will be a lot more workshops coming up. And as I mentioned, you can connect with Jasmine one on one within the community. So we're thinking about all the different aspects of what our community needs in order to for us to realize what a true community is. I think before what community is now, before um, colonization, people were more together, people were doing things together, people were helping each other out, and we've been in this state of separation, of competition, which is very stressful to our nervous system. We're not meant to do things by ourselves. We're not meant to struggle. When they say it takes a village to raise a child, it used to be that way. In a lot of places it still is that way, but now we're having to struggle on our own. There's a lot that's impacting us individually, even like Black women with a Black man being removed from the home, that becoming a norm. Then that puts us in a space where we can't fully relax and be who we're supposed to be naturally. And even things like the battle between being more feminine and sitting in your femininity, but also having to be, in this state where you had to be the masculine and the feminine at the same time for yourself. So I think there's a struggle to us coming back to how we need to be naturally. Um,
Right.
and the community, Mache, is helping to have these conversations and bring these things back to normal. But it's up to us to make the decisions to um, ignore the illusions, ignore the program that was set for us on how things should be. Create a new definition of success, what feels truly peaceful within you, and not trying to be something to feel recognized, in society's eyes as successful.
Right. Yeah, I'm seeing the connection between like relationship status and mental health or mental stability. So
Hmm.
I don't know if you want to touch on like relationships and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think those things definitely go hand in hand. And I think relationships, not even just romantic relationships. I think when it comes to friendships, relationships between family members, even coworkers and so forth. But I think it definitely can have an effect on any relationship that you have. I think for one, when somebody isn't necessarily all the way right within themselves and mentally, oftentimes if they are in a relationship, it can cause, issues within that relationship, whether it be, between like self-sabotage behaviors, if it's someone that may struggle with like low self-esteem, but they all have an effect on each other. If one is struggling with their mental health, they might not be able to show up, for the other as much. Um, and on the opposite side, I mean, if you're maybe with an individual who does not align with your values and so forth, that can also affect your mental health, and have you maybe engaging in behaviors, changing, um, you know, doing things that, you know, differently than maybe what you did beforehand. And so, yeah, those definitely play a big role in general. But I think, yeah, for some people, you know, some of their relationships can also affect you, right? Future relationships with other people as well. You know, it's just depending on the person and, you know, whether or not they do the work to not bring it to that new one.
Definitely.
Yeah, someone said good question because the divorce rates are high, and if you're trying to build a community, that is a big aspect for family sector. Yes.
Yeah.
And also now, how will we as a community benefit from your organization if we come in as a family? Would your organization be able to provide support for families? So being that Louis and I are both parents, and which means we're not just creating this community based on what everyone needs, but also we're creating, you know, something that we know will work for us as well. Um, and we invite people to have input on the community and how it's created, so we know that it's not just beneficial to us, but everyone is getting what they need from the community.
Right.
So when we're building these physical communities, we're thinking about, and the online community also mirrors the physical community. We're thinking about school, how we should be educating our children, right? The school system now we feel is very stressful to children, having to be in a state of competition where, you know, their grades are being compared when one child might be more advanced in one area than another. They might be made to feel slow in one area, or that impacts their independence and their self-worth, and that can also go into how they, you know, grow up as adults. We want to create a school where these children, we can highlight their natural abilities. They're not in competition with anyone, and so that's one way, right? But also we see the community as a holistic community, which means that we're thinking about the mind, body, spirit, how everything is impacted. So even as far as food, which is really important because how our children are being fed and how we're being fed today in the States, in particular, we know that the food is not really always safe. Even if you're eating fruits and vegetables, it's, you know, it's still poisoned in a lot of ways. So we're thinking about everything holistically and how it can impact the family. And we're not just waiting to build the physical communities to create that. We're creating that within our online community as well. We have spaces for mental health. We have spaces, a lot of still looking for roles to fill into these spaces as well, but spaces to talk about health, eating wise. And
I would say the solution is in community itself. You know, like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. You know, so creating that village of individuals who can align, who can agree on what the solution should involve, then being part of such community is helpful, is beneficial. Coming together, bringing our resources, our talents, our knowledge, and building on that. You know, that's where it starts. So yeah.
actually, I think I forgot. We can share the link to let people come up and ask questions if they want to. So I think maybe for about 5-10 minutes, if anyone is interested. Um, Let me copy the link. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. And if you're interested and, you know, it's a respectful conversation, you can come up and ask questions. And yeah.
In the meantime, I want to, you know, I want to kind of move to Haiti, right? With the discussion, because again, these are our everyone's plans in the community is to move back home, right? And so there's a lot of talk about like insecurity around, you know, gang violence and criminality, all of this going on in Haiti. And when I look at it, I'm like, okay, well, why don't we get down to the root cause of this? You know, these young, you know, brothers are joining these gangs because obviously they need money, they need to eat, you know, and so maybe they're being swayed into the gangs that way, right? And so it's like, as far as survival, but also mental health, I think, in my opinion, I think that mental health plays a role in that. I found a link from frontiersinc.org that says uh, transnational drug trafficking, political unrest, gang violence, and paramilitarism, which are perverse in Haiti, have resulted in a mental health crisis for the broader Haitian community. The study explores the mental well being of Haitians in Haiti and the United States by identifying barriers and facilitators to mental health through the lived experience of men and women, right? And so I feel like there's a correlation, even in the States. We grew up in the hood. And so, well, I did. And so I saw a lot of the response of being brought up in such conditions. You know what I mean? And so, what do you have to say on that?
Yeah, I think that, everything that you mentioned is true. Those things do have a direct correlation with mental health. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Mhm.
but Maslow, he is someone like a theorist basically who made this hierarchy of needs, and like at the bottom, it's like a triangle, and at the bottom, the very bottom is physiological needs, and that includes things like food, water, clothing, shelter, a lot of those things that, many individuals, struggle with having in Haiti and even in, certain areas in the US. And so, yeah, that is the number one thing needed, kind of like at the bottom. And then above that is safety and security. So feeling safe and secure. Many individuals don't feel secure or safe in Haiti due to, the gang violence and not feeling like their leaders are, doing what they need to do on their end to serve their people. Um, and so, like you mentioned, I do agree. Those things definitely do have a major correlation. If those basic needs that, we need as humans to thrive aren't being met, then it enhances, affects every other aspect of our life.
How what are solutions that we can find for those areas?
Yeah, I think that it's a big solution, because I think it requires multiple things. It requires, more access to health services, more access to services, and to, different populations. It requires more conversations, right? Like having those real conversations, in different places, in school, talking about mental health in school and so forth. And so I think, in various areas, there's multiple ways that it can be helped. It's really just about everyone collectively um, doing what they can in each area, and using those different resources. But I think one of the main things you know when it comes to individual people is really just asking them what they need in just that moment in time, and doing your best.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have a lot of work to do. Um, Haitian people have been through a lot for a long time, but now with everything that's happening, it's compounding the trauma. So I think going back to Haiti and us as the diaspora, we have work to do within ourselves, but going back and helping to work on the mindset of the people and helping them to deal with trauma, I think that's going to be like a really a big mission,
Yeah.
but it's necessary in order for us to have trust among the community, and start to heal.
Also,
Right.
in order for the Haitian population, the country, the language, the culture to survive, it's a must that we do that, because going
Right.
there, keeping this
Can
path
you guys hear me?
going, have a, yeah, yeah, we can hear you.
Hey Sterling, how are
Oh,
you?
God, I'm so sorry, man. I'm 100% apologize. I'm not a disrespect person, but um, yeah, I had to. Um, I
I
couldn't
don't
get
No,
in.
think
no,
we.
I thought it was the same way. I thought it was the same way in the other life. So I was waiting for it, but I was driving from New Jersey to Orlando, so I just make it to Orlando.
No.
Um,
We've opened
I
it
think.
up to we shared the link for people to come in and talk. So,
Yeah, you're
Okay.
on the line
yeah,
My
now if
bad.
you want to share what's
My
going
bad.
on.
no problem.
It's my first time. It's my first time. Being part of the mental whatever health. I'm not. I mean, I have an idea what is it, but I've never, you know, had a conversation with anybody like that. But like you guys already know, I'm facing some situation right now, but I don't know. But yeah. I mean, I'm in. Just I don't know. I don't know what to say, but I'm
Okay.
in.
Are you saying that like mental health is not something that you like grew up like talking about or being into?
I would like to know what's the true definition of mental health. Maybe I can share my, you know, my personal experience. I don't know. I heard it, but I probably experienced it, but I probably don't know exactly if his mental health is the same as um how can I say that like
Mental health is like a broad term that can, include multiple things.
okay. I
So
mean
can I
yeah,
can I say
definitely.
I want to say right as a man, well, a black man in this country, you know, I my experience was I had to get out there at a young age, make a living, earn some money in any way possible, right, in order to survive, in order to help my family and do this and do that. And so I didn't really have in a moment or an option to pause in life and really like consider how is this or how has my past affected or played on my thought process today. You see,
Right.
Oh,
because I was just
okay.
focused on getting the money. I didn't have time to think about that. And so I think for a lot of brothers, that's the reality. you know
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got I mean especially in my personal experience or my personal lifestyle is I'm a provider to everybody. So a lot of stuff I'm like I don't I'm always busy. So you know like as far as like the mental health thing, I think that's something in my daily basis. You understand? I can say because either I'm dealing with my kids or I'm dealing with my family or I'm dealing with my personal life,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So and it's plus my company. I just launched a company, my friend, this year, so I have to focus on that. So I think all these things combined, accumulating to me have facing those mental health and stuff like that. Sometimes I even ask myself, I even tell myself, do I need therapy and stuff like that? But yeah, I think you're right, man. Being a provider to provide for everybody is is I mean it's tough. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not fully focused. I wanted to be part of the thing. You guys are my family because you guys said it. I don't have no friends. They're the only friend I have is my partner. But as far as my personal life, I don't talk to nobody. But I'm facing a situation. I would tell you guys, man. The reason I'm in Orlando because I just found out my girlfriend cheated on me. So I had to be here unexpected. So that's why I couldn't get in. I share with you guys, just let you guys know if I'm not fully into that, if I'm not fully responsive to the meeting, let you guys know that I got some personal thing going on. So
Sorry to hear about
I'm
that.
I'm been okay.
Yeah, and
Huh?
that's something that yeah, that's something. So when we talk about mental health, that's something that's currently impacting your
Yeah.
mental health, right? So that
It's I think the earlier you share how you are impacted or how you feel about the situation, the quicker you can get into a space of feeling better,
I'm hearing.
of health. So
Exactly.
feel free to
um
share, if you want.
Right. Yeah. If you
yeah.
even think that you could benefit from a therapist, I know you mentioned I think to myself sometimes, could I use one? I mean, you may have reasons to. So, yeah, it couldn't hurt.
Um you know it's not really yeah. Like I said, I'm a provider. I provide to everybody, even my girlfriend. So um I make sure I take care of everything. You know what I mean? But at the same time, as a black man, we can't just because I'm busy. Just because I'm busy doesn't mean I'm not paying attention. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm paying attention to everything. You know what I mean? So I just bought a car, and then um last time I went home, and then I already knew she was lying to me. stuff like that. But last time I went home, the person she was talking to and stuff like that, and I end up doing something kind of like it's not stupid, but I had to do something because I drive trucks, so I'm not around. So I have to find a way to find out what's going on because I'm focusing build a future for my kids and her. So I'm not worried about some type of stuff. I'm not like I'll go in person, but I'm more focusing what's what's in me. I'm more focused
Right.
about the future and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. But make a long story short, man, and um yeah, man, she went to the guy house and everything. So I mean, she didn't know I was gonna pull up to Orlando. I didn't want to come to Orlando. I was in Miami, but my spirit tell me just go to Orlando, just pull up without saying anything. And that's why I just find out she was inside the house with the guy, and I was outside. She turned off her location because we share location because I'm out there making a living. If something happened to me, so you know exactly where I'm at and stuff like that. And but the car that I bought her, I have a GPS in it. Last time I came over here because I felt like she was doing something kind of lie. I was like, you know what? I got a GPS in it. She didn't know, and I pull up and then go from there. I think that's I make it short, but there's more to say. But sure, I'm impacted in the way too because I know where I wanted to go, but I feel more like free by knowing something happened right now than let it happen when she got she had a kid for me and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So because I had good intention, married, I mean, planned marriage and everything. So nothing like that. I mean, it didn't happen. We didn't get married. We didn't get no kids. So that's what made me feel like more like free because I rather it happened to me right now than just have a kid with a woman and it end up happening. So especially
Right.
America. So that's why right now I'm okay because I know she have more to lose because I'm a provider and then I have somewhere I want to go. So I'm not gonna waste 5 minutes conversation with a woman to jeopardize my relationship I have with a woman for 6 years. So we've been together for 6 years. So um, there's a lot more to say, man. Louis probably feel how I feel because he's a black man and stuff like that. But I wanted to say more, but just because something happened to you, you have to understand you were with the lady. There's a lot of
Right.
stuff trying to stay personal, but try to put on
So,
the spice stuff like that. But yeah, but
right.
I'm good. But I'm trying to focus in you guys, and maybe I can get I'll be fine. But yeah, for sure.
yeah, I mean, I know Jasmine, you're the mental health coach right now, right? But
Yes.
I just want to add before you go in that for me, I see those experiences as when you get into a space or a time of like
Transitioning.
transitioning, these things happen to remove people in your life that don't belong, right? And so it's like I don't when now at my age, I don't see those things as bad things. I see them as good, like they're blessings, right? Because now I can release that and I can put more
I'm sorry.
energy.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. How old are you, boss man?
How old am
If
I?
you mind me asking. Yeah.
36,
35.
35, 35,
Oh, so I'm
yeah.
older than you. Okay, that's fine. I'm 38. So go ahead. I'm sorry. My bad. I have to stop you.
30. How old are
Go ahead.
you?
My bad.
38.
38?
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
37 right now. I'll be 38 in March. March 3rd. My
You
bad.
don't know how old they are.
Yeah, man, because I'm gonna tell you what I learned is it weighs more when you let it weigh you down. You feel me?
Hmm.
Like it's easier. It feels better when you just shed it. You shed it off of you and you let it go. Of course it hurts. Of course it hurts. But it just represents that you're in a position. You're in a time of expanding, evolving. You know what I mean? And things that don't belong, that can't go into the next phase with you, they gotta fall off. You know, you gotta shed that.
Hmm.
So that's my experience, but I don't know what Jasmine got for you.
I would say exactly what you said. But no, I think that yeah, like you mentioned, you no longer have to kind of hold on to that, especially if, the situation or dynamic wasn't ideal for you, or you felt like, it didn't serve you, and was causing, other issues in other, areas of your life. But I think, yeah, that is the important thing with any situation, right? Like moving from, a relationship, grieving a relationship, right? Like grieving what you thought something might have been, those future plans that you had and so forth. But like you mentioned, being able to one, think about how you grew from the relationship, is like a big part of being able to kind of like work through that. What have you learned, right? Like what did the other person teach you, or even just overall it being able to better equip you to be able to like, navigate through, other situations in the future and so forth. So yeah.
Definitely. You got something you want to add?
I mean, I feel like you
I can't
said
barely. Hold
exactly
on.
what I was
Is that
gonna
me?
say
You guys can hear
because
me?
Yeah, we
yeah,
Can
could
you
hear
hear me?
you now. Yeah.
You guys can hear me?
yes.
Yes.
I can't hear you guys. I cannot hear you about it. It's not me. It's not me. Wait.
Do you want to leave and come back in? Oh, you can't hear us.
So you guys can't hear me. I can't hear you guys. No, I can't hear nobody.
Can you hear us
I
now?
cannot hear nobody.
Um,
Wait. You guys can
You
hear me,
good?
right?
Yeah, we could
yeah.
hear you.
Yes.
Jasmine, you say yes. I see you say yes, but I can't hear you. Well, I don't know what
Oh,
happened. Maybe it's on my end or something. Well, okay, hold on. Wait. Maybe I have to get back on.
All right.
okay.
Yeah, what you was saying?
So I wrote a shadow work book because I spent a lot of time doing shadow work. And one thing that I learned is how to be an observer of a situation and, not taking things personally. No matter what, we're emotional beings, we're going to feel what we're feeling. And I think we also have to allow ourselves to feel, and not, compress things. But then I also allow myself a set of time to be in my feelings. And then, okay, what are we doing now? Um,
Right.
but situations like that, like I always tell people, observe the situation. Exactly what you both said. How do you? What did you learn from the situation? Um, how has it impact you? And also making sure that you're clear about what you want the next time around, and also to heal the situation to make sure you're not taking that to your next situation because I want to see.
But what's challenging about the mental aspect of it is that it may not become you may not feel it until years later. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like that's what's challenging about the whole mental health thing. Is like when we talk about trauma is an instant all the time. You feel me? Like it's like it comes in the future. You feel it in the future.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Louis, NG, and Jasmine. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, my bad. That was my fault. I'm sorry. You were saying some important stuff, and I just missed a few things. But I I don't want you guys to focus in the. I don't want my situation jeopardize the meeting. But if that adding value to the meeting, that's cool. But I'm not trying to bring my stuff to mess up
No,
everything.
I think it's fine because it also, bring up a different topic that we didn't bring up before, which is um, how, and this is something that I've talked on my channel about individually, is what's expected from men and specifically the Black men. I feel like there's a weight that you guys have to carry to be providers, to be emotionless, and to, like your mental health is not really something like if you go to therapy, it's it could be looked at as weak, and you have to be responsible for a lot of people. You have to think for people, you have to provide for people. And yeah, I don't know if that's how things should be, but I feel like men or women, we you guys are still human. You still feel emotions, you still feel trauma. So I think there needs to be more focus on releasing pressure from the men to be responsible for so many people. and also understanding that you guys also have your own mental health that needs to be focused on, because I think a lot of times we just see the women as emotional, and possibly having trauma and issues, but then the focus is not always so much on, well, what, how much weight does this man have to carry? Um, you know, are you okay mentally with everything that you have to do, with all the people that you have to be responsible for, and then dealing with all that, and then possibly being abandoned in a way, or someone taking advantage, or yeah, being disloyal. I think it's a lot on the mental for
What?
men.
I understand it. Is it
You
me?
can hear
Yeah,
it happen again.
Something
but
might be wrong. Why keep doing that?
Ja- Jas- Jasmine.
Yes, I'm here. Oh,
what do you think about that, Jasmine, as far as like how all of this impact the men in our community?
like mental health in general.
Yeah, mental health in general, the expectations and the weight that is put on men, and how it affects their mental health.
Yeah, I think it definitely affects men in multiple ways. I think, even it starts off, from young, people saying those little things, boys don't cry. Like it really does start, that's that young. And so um some of those things that are like instilled, as children, and cultural norms that, are brought to them based off of, those individuals that they're around. But yeah, I think, when it comes to men, there is this like sense of like stoicism, when it comes to like having to uphold this, um, this look, I have it all together. Men aren't quote unquote emotional, which is not true, right? Um, I think like individuals say this thing where like, oh, men think with logic, women think with emotions, and that's just not the case. Like we all think with logic and emotion.
Yeah.
And I think that's a common saying that kind of just further normalized and perpetuated those stigmas when it comes to men being able to get help for mental health. But yeah, I think for many individuals, being told that they're weak, or that they're weak if they have to get help for their mental health and everything. That kind of just ingrained, it has just continued to be a thing.
Right.
And then, like you mentioned, in addition to that, feeling like you have so many responsibilities, maybe not even having enough time, to be able to, get that, or feeling like you don't have enough time to get that, that help, because you're so busy trying to be the provider and so forth. So yeah, it definitely has a big effect on that. Um, and in turn, it just kind of becomes a cycle, right? Because you know, men raising boys like that as well, they're seeing that as well. And so yeah, it definitely is important being able to especially for little boys, being able to let them know that it's okay to express their emotions.
Mhm.
Right. Sterling, you back with us?
Yeah, I'm back with you guys. I'm back with you guys. I heard some great stuff, but I'm not really I'm cool, man. It's just I'm cool. The only thing that kind of like six. I mean, I'm saying 6 years with somebody, man. There's a lot of stuff I could have done in 6 years. And you know, there's a lot of stuff I could accomplish. I could accomplish if I was alone and stuff like that. And yeah, that's a good lesson too. So okay, I'm just gonna move on from that. Go from that and focus what's important, which is my goal to be successful and stuff like that. That's the only thing I'm worried about, to be honest with you, man. But I'm cool. He's probably gonna hit me a little bit, but I'm not gonna lie to you. But I'll be fine, man. It's all good. But yeah, definitely like that mental health thing. Is that something that you guys gonna do like every other day, every other time or something, or like something
Um,
one time or?
well, so Jasmine is available. She has office hours in the community app, so you can book her one-on-one for sessions. You probably won't see that. So it's one thing that I didn't mention with that, right? So we have the community is free for everyone, but we have different subscription tiers so that we can provide support to
Oh
people.
yeah,
at a certain rate. So she's available at certain subscriptions. And maybe we can even work something out to where people who are not subscribed can book her and just, pay for the sessions. But, there's a lot that we offer in the community for free, but then this also helps us to support the mission for Mache so that we can
Hmm.
rebuild. And also it's taking, Jasmine, she's a professional, is taking her time. So we want to make sure that she's taken care of for those things as well.
For sure, for sure. I'm gonna look
Yeah.
into that. And I'm supposed to um pick one of the subscription. I don't know. God, I'm sorry, man. I'm so busy, and yeah, sometimes I say something, I just after 1 minute I forgot. But so as you guys already know, I'm trying to mm, um like right now I'm in Orlando. I'm not home, like to my house. I'm gonna just go see my daughter. They don't know I'm here. I'm here for a specific mission, so
Oh,
I'm gonna go
nice.
see them and make sure I'm just surprised and bring something. And I think I should be good. I appreciate you guys, bring the all the ideas, man. And
For sure.
it's not the first time I'm dealing with this. I think it's because I think it's because it's kind of my fault to people that you choose to be next to you as a partner, because I feel like there's a lot of women these days that not really I don't know, like um they want you to be around all the time, like even they know for sure what you try and provide. There's somewhere you want to go, and then you have to fully focus. If you don't find somebody that really back you up in what you do and only take things for granted, and the person always gonna find a way to do something stupid like that, because once the person know exactly where you're going or where we going, and even you spend like weeks out or 2 weeks out, she already know, she already understand, you out uh for a good reason. So I think it's me too. I just blame myself in a way to, next time. There's no next time for me because I'm too old for that. But yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
you know, I would say make sure you make time for yourself. And what's also cool is expressing your feelings. You know what I mean?
This man.
Like,
But he's probably still listening. So
yeah, what's cool is like expressing yourself. Because I know a lot of times men we say it's cool, I'm cool, I'm cool.
mhm.
But we feeling it. And sometimes we may not want to admit that, and I get it. But I think we should also make cool within the male sphere, uh, being able to express yourself and really share what how it impacts you, and in order to feel some solutions. Yeah.
you know, this this conversation gave me a great idea. Um, Maybe we can even set up something where within the community where we have men and women come and talk about how they feel impacted and what they would like as far as support and from the feminine, and as well as the feminine saying this is what I need from the masculine for me. So
Mm.
because we need to hear each other out. I think a lot of times we just assume we want, the men might see I need the woman to be this way, and then vice versa. I need the men to be this way. But I think it would be a great conversation for us to all have, this interaction where we can all talk about what we need from the masculine. The other day I was listening to a TikTok live, and the topic was about um, how it seems now that the women is the one building communities, trying
Mm.
to make all these changes, and there seems to be some kind of anger towards the black men for not taking enough of a step forward. So yeah, I think that would
I
be
like
great.
them. I like them for that. I like them when they do that, because if a woman think like that, I like when women like kind of strong and try to. I like when women trying to be like in Haitian way they said. I like when women brass it. You know what I mean? I like when women trying to do things like men. Like, there's some women you see when they do things, men, like just like, wow, that's amazing. Like sometimes when I'm driving, I see women driving trucks and get out, hopping in the hood and do everything. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I like that. But yeah, I see what you said, Angie. But yeah, I think that's a good conversation. And as a matter of fact, I have a podcast coming up soon. Talk about kids, you know, like, you know, when they're out of high school, what cemetery it is, what their experience is, my God, my Lord, my phone keep acting up, man. I can't say nothing. Oh my God, I heard a lot of static right now. I'm looking at you guys like I'm crazy.
I
We
think
can't
Now
see
I heard
you.
static, and then you guys can hear me properly. But I think let me just let you guys have in the conversation because I'm not trying to, you know, because right now I'm hearing a lot of static, and then you guys hear me properly. I'm looking at you guys, but I can't hear nobody. I think it's
Okay.
my phone acting up. I have to log out all the time.
I think he keeps getting a phone call or something or a
Or maybe the
text.
location. But what do you guys think about that conversation, having
I think
a
it's good
conversation like that?
because
I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else is doing it.
Yeah, Mimi said that would be wonderful. So I'm glad we agree because I think there's a lot that we need to embark. And it's not to argue, it's not to come at the men, it's not for the men to come at us. It's for us to be open in a safe space to express what we feel that we need from men and also with the women, what the men need from us as women. And also, like really understanding the men's perspective on what they think. Um, of how feminine, and I think it's going to be a little bit different for each person, but I think there is also a general idea of how men expect women to be and how we expect men to be, and those expectations are causing issues in a lot of relationships
Right.
and could actually end relationships because we have an idea of this is how I want you to be, and if you're not this way then you're not good enough, and forgetting that like we all have our own, we're all individuals and we still have to operate as individuals as well. So we could have, Mimi said we can have both sides, men and women. Yeah. So I think that would be a great conversation. We'll set that up
Yeah,
for sure. So as long as you guys are in the community, and I know Mimi, Sterling, you're in the community, so we'll set up that conversation. I think that would be great, and maybe Jasmine can lead it for us.
Yeah, that sounds like a good
yeah.
idea.
I'm proud of you, Jasmine.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm proud
I
of
really
Angie
do.
too. These girls and Louis already know I'm proud of him. I don't have to tell him. He's meant to me. So yeah, I'm proud of you, Jasmine. Every year I see black women, especially Haitian women that really like, 10 toes and trying to professional, trying to focus on important things. They got a major. I give you a flower, man. I respect that. I have a lot of respect for women like this, but I don't regret to be part of the community because I meet a lot of great people. Um, but I want you guys to not think like that thing impact me. Like you guys can. I'm cool. Like I said, I'm kind of where I'm going right now. I know I will be successful, but I don't need somebody next to be successful. But like I was saying before, I think you know, like I said before, I was trying to say something, but that thing cut off. I'll bring my podcast soon for my kids. I'm gonna start with my kids first, teach them how to be good and stuff like that, and then we can teach other kids how to grow up. So I feel like by age 18, go to 19, go to 20, a lot of kids start making a lot of mistakes and cussing a lot in the future.
Mhm.
So I think that's what I'm trying to avoid. That's gonna be the purpose of my podcast coming in soon. So coming up soon, but um yeah, I mean, oh my God, guys, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to.
For
It's all
sure.
right. No, thank you for joining and bringing that topic. I think even though that wasn't the direction we were leading, it was still helpful, and now we're seeing something bigger that we need to touch on. So everything is guided. Everything is guided. Even you said that you didn't even have you just felt like you needed to go where you went today, right? So you were guided to that place to see, so you can have
Yeah,
it.
I was. Yeah, I
So
was. I was in Miami, man.
yeah, it's all about
Mm.
perspective and how you're receiving it, and if you can, focus on the bigger picture, which is that like what Louis and Jasmine said, this is making room for something greater to come, and in order for you to be in a different space, receive something different, you know, things has to be released. So
Yes,
definitely
ma'am.
feel your feelings and go through your emotions, but don't get in the space of blaming and being upset because at the end of the day, it is because it's making room for something better.
No, I'm not trying to. That happened to me before. It was bad, so I'm not. I'm upset, but I'm not mad though. I'm upset because of whatever happened. That's not what I wanted. But I gotta move forward. I got my daughter. I'm good. So she's my baby. But anyways, but I think I'm gonna have to let you guys go. Um, um, not because I wanted to. I just wanna get some stuff situated and go see my kids, and
For
we
sure.
can go from there. Louis, sorry for earlier, guys. I see somebody was trying to be disrespectful on the YouTube thing, but that's the only way I could say something. But I'm looking forward to spend more time with you guys, and I gotta go handle some business right now if you guys don't mind me.
For sure, man. Take it easy, be safe, and we'll see you
All right, my
again.
man.
Thanks for
Yes,
joining.
sir.
Thank
All right,
you.
Jasmine. Bye, Angie. Bye.
Bye.
Uh,
All right. So this has gone a little bit longer than we planned, but I think it was a great conversation. I'm looking forward to, the conversation, between the men and the women. I think that's going to be great. So we'll work on planning that for you guys. If anyone who's in the comments, anyone who's watching is not part of the MACHE community, we did add the link tree link in the chat. So you can, let me see if that's still there. Um, Yes. The link to the community is in that space. There's a lot that we do on a weekly basis. We're having conversations, we're meeting. We have monthly town halls to talk about the different things that's happening with MACHE. You can contact Louis or myself directly. We'll answer any questions that you have about MACHE and, even your transition if you want to move back to Haiti, talking about that, what that transition could be like if you need support. So we're here for all of that. And Jasmine has a workshop coming up February 18th that if you join the community, you'll see the link in there where she'll be talking about CBT, cognitive behavioral health, right?
Cognitive behavioral therapy. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you'll be giving tools on how people can manage unhealthy thoughts, right?
Yes, I will.
So you guys can come in, join that workshop. It's free. And if you're interested in working with Jasmine one-on-one, you can also reach out to her on the app. And I think that's it. Do you guys have any last?
No, thank you
things to
for
say?
thank you for joining us, and we
Yes.
look
Of course.
forward to all we can do within the community, the platform, and thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye. Have a good night.